Hello everyone, and welcome back to me just being a hater for 10 minutes. Because I want to rant about van life, and how I've been seeing van life being portrayed on TikTok, and how we've kind of come full circle with travel content that used to be big on Tumblr back in the day. And I say back in the day very lightly, because I'm talking about like the 2010s, like this was in like 2012. When the world should have been ending, Tumblr inspo girls were traveling the world. And now, I think we have the TikTok version of that with van life. According to the internet, we were never supposed to make it past the year 2000 or 2012, or I think 2020. 2020 almost got us. That one was pretty close. And unfortunately, that means that those of us who've been alive this whole time get to see a lot of our favorite things from the past come back. 2012 was supposed to come with so much death and destruction and despair. And nothing really happened except people finding themselves in Bali. Okay, so can I just be a hater for a minute? Can I just do that in this video, please? On this channel, oftentimes, I like to explore nuance. I like to try to see both sides. But not today. Not today, Satan. Today, I want to come to you with the least nuance, least research, I have no experience with this life type of take you've ever heard. Today, we're doing all hate, no breaks. Recently, I came across an Instagram reel, which I know that was very geriatric of me to say. Like, whoa, call the nursing home for this millennial. She's watching Instagram reels. Sometimes I like not knowing things, all right? Maybe I like the charm of not knowing things until weeks after it's been posted on TikTok. And this whole thing is not about like a specific van life creator because, as I said, I actually don't consume that much of this kind of content. That being said, I have seen a handful of van life content on my timeline, and maybe it's my FBI agent hearing me complain about rent prices, which, you know what? Thank you so much for listening. I'm glad that someone is hearing me. But I did come across an Instagram reel with someone finally saying the suspicions that I've had about van life for a very long time. And that's that. It's not as good as it looks. This is what the Instagram reel said.
You came here looking for a van life update? Yeah, this shit sucks. I mean, fuck. It's just expensive homelessness, to be honest. But I'm in deep now. I'll make it work.
It's like they're finally breaking. And I saw this life cycle, like I said, with the Tumblr girls. There was a point in time where they started to break, where they kind of started to admit that, like, hey, some of these trips weren't that fun. Or they admitted that their parents had been helping them, or that they were in fact broke. Point is, the shit hit the fan, all right? Eventually, we got to see that behind all those aesthetic Tumblr GIFs and videos and whatever, that it wasn't all that it was cracked up to be, that it was kind of a fallacy. And I've had that same suspicion for a while about van life, so this little Instagram reel honestly excited me. Now listen, I don't know if I'm just a city girl, and I mean that as in literally from a city and not like from a rural town or like country or village. All I'm saying that I have spent the majority of my life living in pretty densely populated cities. So admittedly, yes, nature and outdoorsy things have never been a huge part of my existence. I'm acknowledging my shortcomings in these videos. We can do that. We can admit sometimes when we're wrong before we've even made a point. But I've just always had this little tiny little nagging feeling that van life just cannot be as good as they're selling it to us. That it's just the same as the blue ass water people, as the Tumblr girls, as all of it. How good can living in a vehicle be? I'm just gonna say it. Like, I understand you get to travel, you're not tied down, sometimes you get to see amazing views, but also sometimes you're like sleeping in random parking lots in the middle of like the United States, which is admittedly amongst the scariest place in the world, maybe just for me. And I guess in my head, when I think about van life, at least everyone that I've seen, for the most part, I get the impression that they're in North America, which I feel like I've seen both coasts of North America, and they can be beautiful. But what are you seeing in the middle that is so worth it to drive your car through North America? This is no shade to Middle America, but this is some shade to Middle America. Can the occasional view really be that worth it? Am I missing something? Like, genuinely, what are you seeing? Are we just out here looking for tumbleweeds and clan rallies? What are we looking for? God, I've never sounded more like an iPad kid in my life. Like, why be outside in nature? Just stay in your apartment and click clack on your stupid little computer like me. Continue to be chronically online, develop all kind of new personalities every single day that don't really attach to who you thought your sense of self was, instead of exploring the world. Maybe this video is actually just a cry for help, and in 2 years you're actually gonna see me in a van in like the middle of Vermont or something. Now, even though I said I'm not really like an outdoorsy person, I just mean like I didn't grow up on a farm. Not that I've never been outside. Like, I've gone camping and I've done like hiking and various activities outdoors, but admittedly they have always been like short-lived. I do them for a period of time, I go on a trip, but then I come on right back home. There's never, I don't think, been a time where at the end of it, I wasn't just like, I'm kind of glad to be home now. I'm kind of glad to have like running hot water that I don't have to get from somewhere else, my own laundry. I cannot imagine choosing a life where you just don't know how you're gonna do your laundry. There's also a handful of small things that I don't really get, like how do you have a job? How do you get Wi-Fi everywhere that you are? Does data work everywhere you are? How do you always have water? Find somewhere to park? How do you get mail? I cannot wrap my head around somehow living out of a car being a superior way of living to an apartment or a home. In some of these videos, I've seen like huge vans, like huge buses, school buses. And then in some, I've seen like straight up sedans, like a 4-door, like normal car. And I know I said that I wasn't going to include any nuance in this video, but capitalism exists. So I want to talk about this point as well. I've seen a handful of people describe it as kind of like avoiding homelessness. Like, I guess they couldn't really afford to live in the city that they were living in. So I guess if they had access to a van, this was like a next best thing. Like, as someone who's always lived in major cities, the first words that I said as a baby was cost of living crisis. Goo goo gaga, the average American family can't afford basic necessities anymore. Like, I completely understand that as a point. Like, I'm one more election cycle with a conservative government away from homelessness myself. So maybe I'm really in no place to be shitting on van life. Maybe I actually just need to look into it. So I guess for people that van life actually ended up being a reasonable way to like keep costs low or really did reduce their cost of living, then I guess I get it. As a last resort, I guess I can understand anything, living out of a car, a van, whatever. Obviously, any choice that helps you avoid homelessness is gonna make sense. But I've always been a little skeptical of this take too. In the same way that a lot of the Tumblr girls used to say like, oh, I just had like a job at an ice cream store for a summer and saved up for 2 years worth of nonstop traveling. I think some people are not being totally honest about this being something that they're doing to cut costs. Because some of the videos that I've seen as well with like van renovations are like $25,000 worth of reno and like getting the van and whatnot. But like with $25,000, I think you could probably pay for a year's worth of living in an apartment in a lot of major cities with that. And I'm saying like at least a year. There's definitely other cities that are cheaper that you could probably cover more than a year. I feel like most people can probably come up with enough money with your job to pay rent every month. But the upfront capital that it can take to start van life, I don't know how many people can just come up with like 20 to 30 grand. As well, I've never really seen like a consistent cost breakdown of how much living in a van would run you per month. My suspicion is that like, wouldn't most of your monthly costs also continue to like exist? Because like, while yes, you don't have like rent anymore, sure, you still have like kind of utilities within your van that you have to pay for. Your phone bill, your internet bill, your various memberships. I think you would still keep a good amount of your bills even if you live in a van. Is it really that helpful, I guess, for people as an alternative to like living in an apartment or a home? And something that had come up too was a lady, if I can find the TikTok, I'll post it, but I think a lot of people saw it, who was basically saying that she had attempted van life and was unable to make it work. I saw a lot of people in the comments giving her like a lot of advice on how to potentially make it work, and that was great. I think what she did highlight is just the same thing that happened with all this kind of travel content with the same blue ass water that Cody Ko was talking about, that it is just so heavily romanticized, and I think it's just important that people really dig into it before they start it. Shelby Church, I think, also made a video on it, which also kind of confirmed some of my hater ass biases. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. The difference though is I feel like now there's still a lot of people who I feel like are romanticizing it a bit, but people are a lot more honest. There's a lot more van life people that are being open about the fact that this is kind of rough and not as romantic as it's being portrayed as. Versus like, dude, in the Tumblr days, I don't think they would have ever started to be open if they weren't getting exposed for things just not being what they were. Because really what happened with the Tumblr girlies, I think, is that people started to travel and realize like, oh, this ain't all that. Or the commentary channels of the time were exposing the fact that this person is wealthy, this person has money, this person is just kind of awful, they're scamming people, whatever it may be. And I think now what's happening is to preempt the exposing part, people are just being honest about the fact that here's the good, bad, and the ugly. But I do think that there might still be a part of it where we're not acknowledging the monetary privilege that you have to kind of have to have a life like this. You seem to need to have tens of thousands of dollars on the ready to do this. A lot of them seem to already be making maybe pretty good money off social media and being an influencer as well. There's a lot of like various privileges that can take van life from being like a last ditch effort from avoiding homelessness to like kind of just this mobile glamping experience. And you know, it is what it is. You have your privileges, use them, I guess. But even like a small privilege of like having consistent access to like your parents' home if things go bad, like your parents being able to help you or buy you a plane ticket if you need it, being able to just move back home if shit hits the fan, like all of that kind of stuff makes van life not really like the I'm avoiding homelessness type of van life. You know what I mean? It's a little bit of a privilege. I also want to add in a mini hater segment at the end, but I feel like a handful of people also like to talk about van life in terms of like an environmental thing, and I'm gonna need y'all to miss me with that one. How can driving
a van
guzzling gas across North America be good for the environment? How can that be a smaller carbon footprint than living in one place, especially if you live in a city that doesn't even require a car? So what's the point of this video and what's the wrap up? As with everything online, half of it isn't real or at best isn't the whole story. Half the asses on Instagram are fake, the biceps are juiced, and the van lifers have wealthy parents.